All right, so we are officially live on Facebook. Today is December 23rd, Wednesday, of course, the day before Christmas Eve, of all times to have a podcast, but we're keeping them running. So we have Reflection Artist Live podcast number 9 with our special guest, Bob Phillips from P&S Sales. If you're not familiar with P&S, you will be after this podcast. And if you aren't familiar with P&S overall, you should be, because they are a major player in the industry of detailing. Nonetheless, with Bob Phillips himself being the owner, taking the everything that his father's built and running with that and making it into a bigger brand than what it even started as, which has been amazing. He's been in the industry for 40 years. He's been head of P&S now for 20, both him and his brother being the chemist. But overall, he's been around since the inception of the IDA. He helped start and be part of the big picture of what the industry is today. And so, going back, Bob, thank you. And going back, give us a little background on how you got into the industry at that early age and how you've become where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, good morning, Justin.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Today's December 23rd, and it's the last kind of working day for P&S anyway. We shut down between Christmas and New Year's, and I got to tell you, I don't know about you guys, but I know that 2020 can't get over quick enough. So we can get to 2021, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what a strange year. I mean, you think about it. I mean, a lot of businesses have thrived. A lot have struggled. A lot have gone out of business. I mean, it's just been a trying year for everyone. Happy to get this year behind us.
Yeah, and the sides of the, my side of the world versus your side of the world, we're over here running around, no problems at all in Florida, but in California, it's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah. Well, we're based in Northern California, the Bay Area, and man, they take this shit seriously here, so it's a little different, But I just the country needs to come together, and heck, we're gonna put this behind us, and hopefully the latter part of 2021, we'll all be back hugging and high-fiving like we used to be able to do, right?
Yeah, I'm anticipating that.
So it's funny you mentioned 40 years. The strangest thing is I don't feel like I've been in this business, 40 years, because it's changed so much, right? When I was a kid and I first started at 18, I was just working in my dad's warehouse. And then fast forward to now, and how we've, reinvented our company. We added double black, and we have great people like you, Justin, kind of working alongside us, and Rennie, and just the dynamic team that we have. It's changed so much. It's hard to say you've been doing something for 40 years, because it always seems like, I don't know, every year is a fresh year. The industry continues to thrive. It's amazingly resilient. And then, I think the passion for caring for cars is greater than it's ever been. So, there's more opportunities now. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, I think it kind of reminds me when, video came out, they didn't think people would go to the movie theater, but then theaters, thrive. Of course, they're not thriving right now, but they thrive. Then when you think about, YouTube videos coming out, teaching people how to detail their cars, detailers may have thought, well, then they're going to do it themselves. But no, it basically just raised the level of professionalism for everybody, and actually created a lot of enthusiasts at home doing their own thing, but also created a higher value for detailing. And so now, detailers are more successful than they've ever been. So there's more opportunities. So, I mean, to look back 40 years, it's daunting because it's changed so much, but it's been spectacular, man. I love what I'm doing. I love working with guys like you, Justin. I mean, when we met, a lot of people, you said, this is about, interviewing me, but I got to tell you, Justin, you're a spectacular individual in this business, and you bring so much to this industry. And I'll never forget when we first met, man. It was, we were kind of both new to, quote, the detail mafia, just kind of trained with Rennie and met at Air Force One, and it's been a great relationship ever since. Yeah,
and to touch on that, I tell a lot of people that, because it's funny how this industry is, where you meet a lot of people, you get relationships with people, but the difference is like we, I didn't know anything about P&S at the time. That was such a well-known brand in California, and here I was a Florida boy on the West Coast, in Seattle, and it was still new to me, right? Being new to the group, new to the brand, and not knowing you, I thought you were another detailer. So we kicked it off as just detailers, right? Not knowing that Bob Phillips was Mr. P&S. And
I didn't want to let the secret out, I mean, it was funny because realistically, when you think about that, I mean, you just said something that's really important, and a lot of people don't know this, but you mentioned that, P&S wasn't known. And, obviously we were, stronger geographically on the West Coast, but you're right. We weren't known. And, yourself, many of the members of the detail mafia and detailers in general, lit a fire under me, but also there was already a marketing plan in place. It's one of the reasons I went to train with Rennie. One of the reasons I wanted to get more engaged. One of the reasons I got involved with the IDA is because I needed the brand to get out. Because I quickly learned that if you were just an industrial brand in this industry, you could get lost.
Yeah.
And spectacular companies were, passing us by, but here we were, this legacy brand. And I'll never forget, I was sitting next to Doug Cunningham, and he says, so where's your detail shop? And I go, well, I don't really have a detail shop. And he goes, you don't? So why are you here? I'm like, well, I got this chemical company. He's like, what? And I told him the name. I said P&S, and he goes, what's that? And I mean, I was like, fuck, that just fired me up. And so, all those things, I mean, I don't know. I think one of the things about this industry is that people are so helpful and want to see people succeed. You just got to curate them right. You just got to make that happen. And, I totally believe in what, we have all said, for years, is that, if you give back, you create opportunities. And, I have personally, and my brother and our company, and I know Rennie lives by that. It's like, make deposits, don't just take. And so, I've always believed in depositing into the industry and giving more. And it really started, 10 or 11 years ago when I said, when this next association, the IDA, was just an idea, was, it's really time that I really try and give back. And that created everything. It created so many opportunities that, that association and many other things, a lot of individuals along the way, companies, have played an amazing role, but that's what's changed the industry. And that's what I think, that's why I think detailers are appreciative of everybody, is because they understand it wasn't just like one person or one association. It was a group of detailers that,
that had a vision together.
That had a vision,
page. Yeah.
And still have the same vision. I mean, one of the things that's amazing, I mean, think about this, Justin, we get together at trade shows, and it's like, you could get 50 detailers together or 300 detailers together at Rennie's party last year at SEMA, or actually it was 365, I think, or whatever the account was that came. We all got together and we were all like, this is so awesome. That's what makes our industry great.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what's the periods of evolution have got us to that point, because every period has become better with everybody getting along. And despite the differences of brands or what badge you're wearing, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
People crack me up. I'm like, you're friends with so-and-so, so-and-so brand. I'm like, oh my God, yeah. I mean, when we did SEMA 360, I got to tell you, the biggest thrill for me was meeting Richard Griot, right? And then, on a call, Tunch Gorin, who I've met, but it's just, to be on the call with these guys. We did want to get Paul from Chemical Guys, which I've never met Paul. I'd love to meet him. I mean, all these guys, they're all talented. Adam Patali from Adam's Polishes. I mean, Adam's just such a character, but man, I want to be friends with all those people because, I mean, we're all competitors, but we're really, hey, there's plenty, we can sell a lot of juice to everybody, right? So, I mean, it's just about, rising above all that and coming together as a team to better the whole industry.
Yeah, it's just a different approach to a good product,
Yeah.
Just like anything else.
They think, I laugh when detailers, they're comparing products and they're slugging it out. I mean, it's the best thing, right? Bead maker did this, or, this product did this, or whatever. I mean, that's all good noise.
Yeah. Everything has its purpose. Whatever you decide you want that purpose to be, Go for it. We're supporting you either way.
But Justin, let's go back to, because I think a lot of people, when we first met at Air Force One, I love telling the story. You and I think it was our day 2, day 3, I can't remember. And it was, it was kind of early on in the, not early on in the Air Force One detailing years, but still when it was, Air Force One was outside, right?
Yep.
It wasn't undercover.
Still a tight crew. Yeah.
Still a tight crew. And, it was more of a kind of a freestyle event. I remember the lifts, we were standing on the edges of the lifts. We got in trouble by Boeing for that. I mean, so many things. But, the thing is, when you and I were buffing the nose of Air Force One, and we were using this polish that, wasn't ours, but that didn't matter. It was a chemical supplier's polish that was given to us to use.
Yep.
It had no oil, no nothing. And the nose of the plane was like dry.
And we're just looking at each other like, what are we gonna do?
Not working, right? And my favorite, I just love it because I'm like, what we need? We need some silicone, we need some oil, we need something, right? And so I remember I pulled the chapstick out of my pocket I started smearing it on the nose.
We just need this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We need to moisturize this thing. And then you're looking at me like, what are you freaking crazy? I'm like, well, it's a wax, man. Come on, we're gonna polish this thing. And sure enough, we polished the nose of Air Force One with a chapstick.
It worked.
And it worked.
It worked.
But it's just pretty
amazing.
That's what I love those stories and our connection. I mean, many people don't know this, but you've been a part of the McCall's Motorworks event many times. And one of my favorite times is, if you remember, your flight was out late. Everybody was gone.
And we went on a hike.
And we went on a hike in the Redwoods, man. And I got to learn so much about you. And to me, that's what this industry is about, is, getting to know people. And, I mean, we may be on opposite ends of the country, man, but I'll tell you what, I just value our relationship so much.
Absolutely. And that was my point. It was very organic. It wasn't just a show-based kind of meet you, you're this person, I'm that person. It was truly just organic and meeting each other as if we ran into each other at a restaurant and first met or something. And that's right. I value that as well. And that's come a long way for sure.
Yeah. And then look at you with, Buff and Shine Now spokesperson. I mean, one of the things that's, I'm not interviewing you, but I do, is one of the things that I always love, Justin, is I'll never forget when you did your first presentation at IDA. And we were sitting there and you were nervous, but you got up, you did a spectacular job. And then one of the things that you have such a talent for is the ability to take advice, utilize it, and turn it into something. And when you were done with that presentation, and I wish I had your skills, when you were done with that presentation, you basically said, all right, what did I do right and what did I do wrong to everybody in the audience? Because you're like, I want to do nothing but get better. And that was, to me, it was spectacular, and that's how you've always been.
I just figured I'd own it, right? If I can make it better.
Hey, I'm
next
new.
round.
This is what I'm going to do. I mean, most people, we get so caught up in our presentation. We're like, well, I hope I did a good job. But you were willing to, open up and say, all right, what didn't I do right? And but you did a lot right. So
thank you. I think a lot of that came from all the years of boxing and getting out of the ring and okay, what did I do wrong? What did I do right? You can't watch yourself, right?
Yeah. One of the things about boxing, man, you quickly learn when you do something wrong. You just got tagged, right?
So
yeah, that's like. It was so funny. Rennie and I took Rennie to a boxing gym that we used to be members of, and it was called Undisputed. It's a spectacular fitness program. And anyway, so we go to this boxing thing, right? And Rennie's like, "You box?" I go, "No, I hit a bag. I don't box. I never want to get hit back, right? I'll hit a bag for fitness, but I'm not gonna. I don't box. Yeah, that hurts.
Yeah. It's a weird sickness of joy.
That is one extreme humbling sport.
It is.
You got to be fit as shit, and then you got to keep your composure. You can't, if you get tired, you lose your composure, and then so you have to be ultimate fit. I mean, that's crazy.
So, little history, P&S, how it got started. Let everybody know, how all that derived and where that got started, leading up to you being in the warehouse at 18.
So my dad and a gentleman by the name of Art Stuber formed P&S, P being a Phillips, my last name, and S being Stuber. So it's P&S, sales. And they started in the city of San Francisco. And at that time, they were selling chemicals. It was started in 1961. We actually celebrate our 60th year next year, celebrating 60 years. There you go. In 2021. But so, they just had a philosophy of providing everything for our car dealership. So, it was detail chemicals was one of them, but then it was hubcaps. It was, all kinds of carpet mats, all kinds of stuff, anything to supply, to a car dealership. That was kind of their business model. And then they brought on another partner, and then they brought on, a chemist, and started manufacturing and, doing all that stuff. And that was in the early 60s. And the business, stayed in the city of San Francisco until February of 1990. And then my brother and I wrote a business plan to my dad to build the facility that we're in now, or the facility that we have where we manufacture products. But I got involved in 1980 out of high school. I was in high school, and I was just working there part-time, in the warehouse. And then my dad said, well, I'm gonna give you the sales route for the city of San Francisco, which was his territory. The business had evolved. Now we had distributors, but the city was, his kind of the factory territory. So that's where, I kind of cut my teeth on the industry. And, you can imagine being an 18-year-old kid calling on car dealerships in the city of San Francisco. I was from the suburbs, and, things were very different back then. The city, they're not sprawling dealerships. They were dealerships and high rises. So there were, man lifts and car elevators and all this stuff and actually quite spectacular car dealerships, to be honest with you, to see them in a building like that. It was really cool. But as an 18-year-old kid, I mean, I was so green, but, I just went out and did what my dad told me, and, treated the customers right. And man, I did that for 10 years. I still have some of my best friends in the industry, are guys that I met, when I was 18, 19, 20 years old.
So you're running the route for 10 years?
10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I ran the route for 10 years while doing other stuff, because it was the city, it was like 2 or 3 days a week, so I had other time. And then, my dad allowed me to get more involved in the business. And I was always kind of the person that, I always wanted to just improve things. So it could have been as simple as I was working in the warehouse and I go, Dad, this doesn't look right. And I'd tear the whole section apart and I'd reorganize, and he'd be like, oh, that was good. So I just always liked improving stuff. And so that was, really where he saw that, I was really into the business per se. And, I went to college, but when I was done, I didn't really have a clear path of, what I was going to do. So my dad said, well, why don't you just, keep working here? So I did. And then, around 20 years ago, my dad, made me president of the company. And then my brother, obviously Dave is, we're equal partners, and, he's head of the operations. I'm head of the sales side of the business. But, we designed this new facility, which was, amazing, because my brother and I really, my brother's is a chemist, but we'd never designed a manufacturing facility, Justin. He just did it. And we just did it. It was, at that time, we weren't even in the chemical manufacturing business. We had gotten out of it. But the company that we were buying from, we had so many problems, man. They had cash flow problems. We were helping them out. We were paying the raw material suppliers, and then one time we get a product and it was, yellow, and the other time it was slightly green. I mean, all the things that you didn't want.
Oh boy.
It was just a nightmare. And so we'd have sales meetings, and I was the quote sales manager at, like, I don't know what, 28 or 20, 26 or 27. My dad would let me, we'd run the meetings together, but they were stupid problems. How come it's yellow? I'm like, oh my God, we can fix this. So my brother and I lived together at the time, and basically wrote a business plan to our dad to say, hey, we should get back in the manufacturing business. We've got to control our own destiny, and we should build this facility. And really, my dad was absolutely spectacular in that, he made decisions without fear, which is, it's funny, the little things would annoy my dad. The big things, it was like, didn't even bother him. So when my brother and I presented this business plan to him, we figured, like, man, he's ready to retire, Justin. I mean, not retire, but, he's doing pretty good. He didn't need to, help his kids out. And he basically said, yeah, we should, he read the presentation, he went through it, and he looked at us and he said, yeah, we should do this. we should have done this years ago. And basically, I mean, my brother and I didn't have any money. We didn't, I mean, we were in our 20s, you know, no credit, really nothing. And my dad basically said, all right, let's put this thing together. And he, you know, borrowed money from friends, banks, and everything. And then we built the facility that we're in now. And, you know, it was spectacular. You know, my dad basically, you know, he set his kids up, is what he did. We owe him a lot.
Yeah, but you also help pioneer that as well. I mean, so
Oh, of course.
it was a family effort.
Oh no, we were all in it. I mean,
yeah.
I look. I mean, it wasn't like he just set his kids up, but I mean, he really, and we enjoyed as a family and still do. You know, working together. I mean, building this place, you can imagine. I mean, you know, we were working on it together. I mean, it was such a great family bonding experience. You know, that it just, you know, taught us everything on, you know, just how to operate in a family business and how to deal with, you know, what do you keep on the job? What do you keep off the job? You know, the general rule was, you know, we'll work hard during the day, and at night we turn the business off, and then it's family.
Yes.
You know? And so we maintain that. Sure, we got in some pretty heated arguments over the years, I'm sure, you know, but
oh yeah,
it all, I mean,
that's
but
the other side of being family too, right?
You know, I mean, that's the side of family. You know, you can get in an argument and go like, oh, we're still friends because we're family, right? Sometimes you get in an argument with coworkers, they're like, you know, I'm out of here. I'm like, well, you can't quit if you're family.
So as far as like, you know, on the detail side, with you being a supplier and a manufacturer and all that, you know, where did you start in regards to like, you know, doing some detailing yourself? I mean, that had always interested you, but also I know going through Rennie's training that helped you in regards to understanding the craft even more so. But
well, I was always a detailer, you know, and I still am. And one of the favorite things is, you know, I don't have the skills of a lot of detailers for sure, because, you know, if somebody does it 5 days a week, and, you know, they have a lot of talent, right? But, you know, I always loved cleaning a car. You know, it's like it didn't take a lot of thought process to do that. It's like therapy to me. Even today, my wife's like, "Why are you washing your own car?" I'm like, "Well, because I like it." I mean, I you know, detail probably, what are you, crazy? But no, I do like it. I have a passion for that. I love, you know, one of my favorite things about the detail training classes that we do is, you know, basically you bring in, you know, an undetailed car in, and then you deliver the car back to the customer, and the thrill of the customer seeing the quality of the work that you've done. I mean, as a detailer, that's the fun part, right? The customer walks in your shop, they're like, "What'd you do? Repaint the thing?" You know,
that's
all
the
those
rewarding
things. So,
part.
And when I was in high school, and you know, I cleaned cars on the side, right? It wasn't really a job; it was just kind of a side hustle. So I always liked cleaning cars. But then, even, you know, to be a successful guy on the truck selling chemicals, man, you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I mean, I had to pull out. I demoed product. I did. You know, there's nothing better than going in the shop, like me walking into your shop. I show you a new product, and you're like, "Yeah, I think it's okay," but I know it's good because I've used it, right? I've lived it. I know all that. So, you know, if I present a product to you and you don't like it, then I probably didn't present it right. Because if I know it works and I'm trying to present you with, you know, something that either, you know, saves you time, makes your life easier. I mean, those are things you're looking for to supply into the industry. And, you know, you want to help the industry out. So you look for successful products. You just don't, you know, put a liquid in a jug, put a label on, hope the hell it sells. You got to have a plan for it.
Yep.
It's got to fit. It's got to offer a solution to give you desire to want to use it. So, you know, I think to be successful, to go back to be I had to be a detailer. You got to be a detailer, man. You got to know what you're doing. I mean, and that's just, it's always part of it. My brother and I still, the funnest thing that we do is, like, you know, he's working on something. We go out, okay, let's go polish a car. Or let's go do this. We're always testing stuff. Always got to be a detailer. But going to Rennie's was really about, you know, engaging all the aspects of the industry and find out, you know, what is going on in the industry. But it was really about every student that goes to Rennie's training, they really go to better their business. That's why they go. I mean, and we did the same thing. We were just a little different, right? We weren't exactly, you know, a detailer, but it was because of the special relationship that I had, you know, that I still obviously have with Rennie. Is the fact is, like, look, it's business first, in terms of, you know, I respect this, that we're not a detailer. and I want to be part. We wanted to get involved, and P&S has always maintained that, where it's like, look, it's not about selling product. It's none of that. It's about connecting and improving our business as well.
Yeah, and that puts a whole new level to, or highlight to, owner operator. You've done that very successfully from the manufacturer perspective. You're still involved, you're hands-on, you're in the industry, you're talking to details, you're working side by side with details, you're detailing yourself. As to not all, say, presidents, CEOs of these manufacturing companies are doing that at that level, and that's not taken away from them, but you put the true meaning behind operator, owner, because you're really still all in with everything, all aspects.
Well, my favorite thing, Justin, would be to come to your shop, and you got a car, and you're like, Bob, man, I need some help. Let's do it. I mean, I could think of nothing better than walking into your shop and you go like, okay, Bob, here's the polisher, get to work. And I'm like, well, what kind of what polisher do you use, Justin? I'm open to anything, right? So I mean,
Yep.
that to me, that's the fun part is,
Yes,
rolling up our sleeves and working on the car together. And I'm watching you. I'm like, well, I haven't done that technique. Maybe I should do that technique. I mean, that to me is what makes this industry cool. Is that, and that's why I love it, because to me, it's still about doing the job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still about detailing.
But to your point,
it'll never change. Obviously, I've been doing it 40 years. It's not going to change now.
But to your point, though, when you are side by side with somebody or multiple people on a project, you learn so much, because the techniques, and everybody's getting to the same finish result, but everybody has a little bit of a twist on how they get there. Some are faster, some are slower, but at the end of the day, it gets to the end result. And that's the big picture, being able to kind of pull knowledge from each other on what approach and why they took that, and have an understanding of it, or newfound respect.
And one of the things I love, the IDA does the Certified Detailer Program, or Skills Validated Program. And one of the things that's so cool, I think, is like, when you're the proctor, you're essentially the instructor, and you're watching the student, and you go, okay, there's 3 polishers out there, there's 3 pads, figure it out. And you watch that individual. And as a skilled detailer, you watch how he picks up the polisher, how he puts the pad on the tool, how he applies the product. And in 10 seconds, we can tell whether this guy knows what he's doing. Yep. It's not, because if you've done it, you got the skills. And Jason Kilmer, I think you had him on earlier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jason, I love Jason. He goes, hey man, give me a wool pad and something and a polisher, and I will make that car frickin' shine. And that's it. If you're a real detailer, man, you can do it with anything. Sure, it would be easier with, the correct tool, but the true detailer, I mean, you can make anything work.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't have to be the most premium products, machines, things of that nature. If you're a true detailer, yeah, you could grab what's in front of you, and it may take a little longer, but.
Oh, I think it would be the funnest thing. We've talked about this so many times. I think the funnest thing is to get a bunch of old school rotary polishers together with some wool pads and go, all right, guys, let's see who really knows how to detail, right? Because then it's going to be, I mean, let's face it, we love the DA tools because they make us all rock stars. But man, if you have a rotary polisher and you can make paint look good, really good with just that tool, man, you've got some skills.
They've done it at some point in time, right? I mean, it was done back then. It could be done again. It's just a lost art.
I learned the polisher I learned on was 3,200 RPMs with a 9-inch wool pad.
Oh my gosh!
With 1.5 inch wool on it. I mean, dude, it was and there was no variable speed, slow it down. This thing was on at 3,200 RPMs. It was crazy, man. Those days you go in a successful shop and you'd look around at about waist high, and there would be compound or polish sling all around the shop at a certain level, because that was the level of the car, right? Yeah. And you're like, oh, these guys are knocking some shit out, right? I mean,
abstract art.
You're like, yeah. Now everybody's got fancy lights, but that was the successful shop. It was like, these guys are knocking work out.
Wow. Yeah, that's funny, because I remember that's who you see a lot in body shops now too.
But you still do, yeah.
Yeah. And funny to touch on too, a little history, talking about buffing pads, and not to shine too much light on buff and shine, but you were one of first, I think, or second of Buff and Shine's clients.
Well, I know we were early on. I
Or,
know,
yeah,
you
you
know,
were early on.
Rich, he did some business in LA, I think with his uncle. I think they were Car Aroma. I think that was the brand. I can't, pardon me if I'm not.
That was the late 80s. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, man. You're making fun of my memory now. But anyway, no, as a matter of fact, when my dad had to pick Rich up from the airport because he was so young, he couldn't rent a car. So we were definitely one of Buff and Shine's, first customers. And, it's a spectacular company, always has been. They always have our back. I mean, they've evolved the company similar to what we have, Rich, when we created Double Black, they're like, hey, we've got to. And I remember having the conversation with Richard going, look, I know you do a lot of private label product and that's really how you make your money. But I got to tell you, Buff and Shine has to be a brand. And man, you guys just killed it. You took that, it wasn't it was just a comment. I'm sure he got advice from other people, but I remember going like, look, if you don't have brand, you got nothing. And he's like, you're right. And then he ran, Julio ran with it. They picked you up. I mean, they took that seriously. And now Buff and Shine, if it's not a Buff and Shine pad, it's not a quality pad. And that's really, doesn't matter whether it's private label. I mean, for us, people go, well, who do you get your pads from? We go, well, Buff and Shine. You're like, oh, good pads. I mean, so we don't hide the fact that we get, we're not a pad manufacturer. No, I don't think virtually nobody in our industry is. We rely on great companies like Buff and Shine.
Thank you. Yeah, no, there's definitely some history there, and that's what I was,
and other ones too. I don't want to, Lake Country.
No,
there's other, obviously, they're all friends, but I mean,
here's the thing. There's heavy hitters in every category of our industry, whether it's pads, polishers, or liquid chemicals, and it's just a different approach to the same end goal of being able to provide a quality product for, the end user's arsenal, the detailer, and making sure that they could get the results that they're looking for to achieve whatever their expectations are. Everybody's expectations are different, right? You have the purists that want everything to be absolutely flawless. Then you have those that are on the production side that just need to get it clean, shiny, and protected. But if you're in their arsenal, you've achieved something, that some others can't because they're not in that arsenal. So That's what matters, And when you get the reputation of quality, that starts to carry on. And that's where, like what you've done with P&S, with bringing it from where it was mostly dominant on the West Coast of the U.S., now it's, great here on the East Coast as well. And it's making its way as full pledge across both sides. And, with the West Coast, I mean, we're how many storefronts, before we started or the storefront program started? I mean, where were you at just for the West Coast side of things in regards to that?
Well, we had distributors that had storefronts, but what we identified with was the fact that distribution partners that had storefronts were basically more current and more in tune with the industry. And so, if you're a guy on a truck and you're calling on car dealerships, and you may have a thriving business, don't get me wrong, but you're a little bit, you could be isolated because you're not seeing everything. Not so difficult now because, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, you see everything now.
But you're right, though. When you're in that bubble of just them, you don't see everything.
The thing about a store would be that, you would have, mobile detailers or enthusiasts coming in going, hey, have you seen this? So they would be more current. So it would force them. So one of the reasons that we really focused on the storefront program is because we identified that our distributors that had storefronts were essentially more successful businesses. They were diversified. So then we started pushing the storefront program because it helped them be more successful. We urge them, if you don't have a store, somehow make your warehouse so you've got a storefront so you can allow people to walk in and buy product. We realize it may not be your core business, but it's another avenue. And it's really, you see, and in some markets, I mean, like, Southern California, which, I know people think we're a West Coast company, and we certainly are, but Southern California has never been a strong market for P&S. It is now because we've got great distribution partners that are setting up storefronts. And we doubled our business in Southern California in 2020. Doubled.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's why we have now Kyle Clark as our regional rep in Southern California, because I'm like, Kyle, I need a guy, right? I got to have a guy down there to help, nurture this great, customer base. Because I mean, Southern California is unlike any other market, in the country, if not the world. I mean, they're like detail outlets on every corner practically. I mean, there's a little micro stores that sell all kinds of product. It's not traditionally done anywhere else, but it's certainly done in Southern California.
Wow, a big car community too.
Huge car community, and we're still a small player in that market, but we did double our business. We're doing some big numbers down there, but there's a huge opportunity down there because you're right. I mean, that is, that's where the cars and coffee started. All that stuff started in Southern California,
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure McGuire's obviously, played a huge role in that because, they had Mike Phillips tells the story when he first started, when he worked with McGuire's. I mean, it was like, just, riding and training and nurturing people out of their facility and creating opportunities for events and engaging with customers. And, I'm sure I'm butchering all that, but I mean, that's essentially, what they created.
Yeah, to get them together to network, the car community. That was
the
outlet for
now,
it.
Cars and Coffee, I mean, those events, I mean, P&S is launching Park and Shine, P&S Park and Shine, P&S, right? Yeah. So we're focusing on that because we want detail shops to host events. I mean, Sydney Bray Gwynn, our spokesperson out of Boise, Idaho, she hosts a car show every year called Cruising Hidden Springs. She gets over 100 cars to exhibit. I think 150 cars in her community called Hidden Springs, and it's huge. And she started it, I think, 5 years ago. And it just grew up. And now last year, of course, with COVID, it was a little different. It was more of a cruise than it was a show. But, those things for shops, I mean, even if you have Gordon McCall, most people don't know that story, but, when he started his event, which, by the way, the picture of you behind you is taken in the hangar at the McCall's Motorworks Revival event.
Yes.
And so, when Gordon started that whole event, it was basically, he goes, hey, I got a couple customers here. We're all prepping for Pebble Beach. Why don't we just have a little barbecue? And now it's turned into a party for 4,000 people.
Yeah, exclusive red carpet.
And he invented the hangar party. Yeah. He invented the hangar party, right? And so, that started with that. So, I know you've hosted events, and you don't have to go crazy one a year, two a year, but allow your customers to engage with you, man. Because when they see how professional you are and the effort and energy you put into a car, I mean, I would do an open garage and invite customers to come in and say, hey, here's how you polish paint. Because they're going to find out, it's like, wow, that's really tough. All right, good. Yeah. I'm going to pay Justin to do it because do you see the work he just did? I mean, that's, so anyway, I don't know where I was going with that.
No, you're right. It's to your point though, it's those events that have helped pioneer growing our industry, but also those inner circle events for individual shops and or businesses that have been able to hold related like cars and coffee kind of things that bring in the local community for the networking aspect to show what you can really do or what your capabilities are to express basically what you're there for. And they're more educated now leaving on, oh, this guy could do this. That is amazing. He just did that to the car. That's a car that they finished. I experienced that for my first time when I did my grand opening. I mean, when I got into detailing, it wasn't a grand opening. It was just hit the ground running to try to make the business work and make money. And then, now with the transition of the growth of it and having the storefront and having the opportunity to do the grand opening, that opened my eyes because that was my first official like car show on the property, and doing it to that style, the networking that came about, the notoriety of the brand of the business, and then afterwards being able to pick up business from customers that wanted to have their cars done by us just because of that event.
Right. And a lot of detailers think that, well, if I only get like 4 cars, it's going to be too small. I go, no, there's no event too small. You can educate anybody, and you start, with one customer at a time. I mean, look at what your storefront has done for your business. I mean, it puts you on a different level, right? And so, and I look at it this way. I mean, I walked into thousands and thousands of shops and car dealerships over my career. And I can walk into a shop and I can instantly tell, is this guy making money or is he not? I can tell right away. It's so obvious to me. I walk into a car dealership, I go, oh, this is a really expensive operation here. These guys are not, their processes are not dialed. And, and then of course, then the parts and service director or service manager is like, yeah, I'm spending too much money in my detail department. I'm like, well, it's not a priority, right? There's no training there. The people don't know what to do, but you expect them to be
it's just
profitable.
Money going out.
It's like, sure, it's a hole. You're pouring money in a hole. And it's no different in a car dealership, a car wash, a detail shop. I mean, they're all the same. The processes are slightly different. The customers may be slightly different, but in reality, you have to have a well-run business, and it's got to be organized. And if it's not, like I said, I walk in a shop, and you probably do the same thing. You visit some detailers, like, ooh, boy, that guy's not making money, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you just see it. And so, sometimes guys go too far. They think they need too fancy a shop. It's not about a fancy shop. It's an organized.
No.
I could care less if it's pretty, but it's got to look the part, and you got to come to your business every day and enjoy it. I mean, it's like, we make P&S as nice as we can make it. I mean, but I come here every day because I want a good work environment.
Yeah, and it's creating that experience, and there is to where it's a little overkill, because then it becomes an experience that's more egotistic than the actual functioning part of that being a reason why you did it was for the experience for the customer. Okay, that's great. Now everything else that came with that, all that extra spending, what was that for? Because the experience is already established. So
right.
was it for the individual owner because he just wanted to have all these great pictures on social media? Was it functionable? Does it make a return for you? Or was it just on the wall because you wanted it and that's that? Yeah, but no, and that experience is just that. And I think from, dialing into your own business and really watching everything from all different aspects of it, and all the wheels turn, when you do walk into another facility, the wheels start turning to be like, okay, they're doing this, they're doing that. And it just naturally, you're just like, are they making money? Are they not making money? Because that's just how you operate individually. So different than going to the restaurant, picking up the menu and seeing the swirls, right? It's a sickness we have because we deal with it so much.
Right.
You can't run from it. So
yeah. Well, and I think too, it's like, one of the things that's, the IDA has fostered and detailers are now seeing it is the fact that, there's nothing better than having, you go visit a guy's shop, say, I don't know, 50 miles away, whatever. He's not a competitor. And you go visit his shop and you see what he's doing, and he comes to your shop, he sees what you're doing, and you're going to help each other.
Absolutely.
Because every time you go in somebody's business, you learn something. I go in factories, I'm like, oh my God, look how they're doing that. We should do that. Or we're really screwing up. How come we're not doing that? Because we only know what we know. It's not till we look outside and we see how we can improve ourselves, every day. I mean, it's easy to get in a rut. I mean, our shipping and receiving department, they go, well, this is how we do it. Well, it's not really the best way, you guys. So let's think outside the box,
Yeah.
But you always have to be doing that. And it's hard though, because I was just talking to Keith Plessy, who's, kind of my right-hand man here at P&S, the guy that gets shit done for me. Right. And so the reality of it is, when I was talking to Keith, I go, Keith, you're the guy that runs it because I get lost in it. I need you to keep me on track because, it's easy to just get buried in your business and, and especially detailing. It's like, look, I got 10 cars to detail. I'm the owner. I got to do them. It's hard not to get involved.
Yeah.
And so you always got to be analyzing your business to improve it.
Yeah. That's the only way you're going to be able to grow, right? Yeah. Understanding where your downside, where your upside.
In P&S, I mean, we had a spectacular year in 2020, which is, nice to say. It was very challenging. Don't get me wrong. Supply chain, all that stuff, raw materials, bottles, sprayers, you name it. It was all a shit show trying to get any of it. But the reality of it is, we had a great year, and now, we're changing daily because we have to meet demand. Yeah. It's our, it's something we got to do now, and our product's going out to the world. And it's going out to the world faster than we can handle it. So that, that's our focus in 2021 is like, look, we got to ramp up and we got to look at all options. And so, to think, there's just some stuff I can't share, but I mean, there's stuff I shouldn't say. Sometimes I tell too much shit, but the reality of it is, we have to focus on changing our business because we got to meet demand, and it's a great opportunity. So.
Yeah, and you guys have done that very well with as you've released products to meet the market demands of what's relevant. Ceramics, cleaners. I mean, everything. Just even with the double black line of products, how it's accommodated, the current day of what people use and want in their shops.
I mean, we added 14 products last year. 14. I mean, that's like, how do we do that? I don't know. We're not going to do 14 this year. That's for sure.
Yeah. But there are some things in line without.
Oh, no, there's some things coming up, but we're not, that was our goal, because we felt like the prior year, we didn't come out with anything, quote, new. And so we were like, look, we need to come up with some new stuff. But one of the things that P&S has is, we have a legacy of chemicals that are, we got some diamonds here that people just don't know about. No. And so that's kind of our focus, some of the focus in 2021. I mean, Sydney, she's spectacular. Kyle, spectacular. Prentice, Rennie, all of them. Keith, they all do a great job. But one of the things, Sydney's like, have you guys ever told anybody about Bug Off? I'm like, well, we've had Bug Off for 20 years. It's a great product. I mean, Dave's adjusted the formula to make it current. It's all cool. And so she's decided, well, I'm going to do a video on Bug Off. And the next thing, our sales on Bug Off doubled from that video in gallons, not too much overall, but just from that. And people are like, wow, that's a really good product. And next thing I know, then there's, influencers doing YouTube videos on how to use Bug Off. And I don't even know these guys.
That's awesome.
And it's totally cool. And they're like, I call them and I'm like, thanks. And they're like, well, you're calling me? I'm like, yeah, you helped us out, man. It's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. And those people won't do that. That's why they won't make the phone call.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. You just got to be the authenticity, being authentic. That's a line that Matt Mormon said to me when he came to tour our facility. You're always like, you want to open your cupboard. I'm like, I don't really want to show our place. It's like, it's nice. We sell a lot of stuff. We're very successful, but Matt's like, Bob, just be authentic, man. That's what people want to see. And I'm like, okay. He was so right. I love, what? I don't know if you know Matt. You know Matt pretty well.
Yeah.
I love Matt. I mean, he's like, hey, what you get it's all I got, right? He loves to say that because he's like, look, there's no secret here. I either like it or I don't. Don't take it personally if I don't like it, but I'm just being honest. And I love that about Matt because, if you send him something he doesn't like, he's like, yeah, no, I don't like it. It doesn't mean he doesn't like you. It just means he doesn't like your product. That's okay.
Yeah. No, but to touch on your point with, some of the legacy line products, there's been a few that were great products, but when they got put on the forefront with the double black brand, they just brought a whole nother element to that product and probably the sales part of it, but just being more well known. And not that it wasn't known before, but it was kind of in the shadows as this little gem. And then when it got put on the forefront, even like with the Bug Off, it became now something loud and proud.
The biggest success story of that is Breakbuster.
Yes.
I mean, Breakbuster, we've been making Breakbuster for 25 years. And it was always a great product. It always did its job. Cleaned tires really well, cleaned the rims. It wasn't acid, right? And so we were in the market servicing, professional car dealerships or car washes, and it was either used acid to clean the wheels or there was nothing, right? And you can't mimic how HF reacts on the wheel surface and rids you can't mimic
it's a
that
unique
with
clean.
you can, but it's dangerous as hell. But you can't mimic that with a non-acid wheel cleaner. But Breakbuster was always spectacular, but it just didn't have an audience. And so I owe it all to Keith DuPlessis. He's like, we really should promote Breakbuster. It's an awesome product. I go, well, yeah, it's an awesome product. I know it's an awesome product, but people like acid. He goes, no, people don't like acid. They want to use a product that's safe on their wheels. Let's just give it an audience. And then we were selling a lot of Breakbuster in our legacy brand. And the rag company came to us and said, just put it in double black. I'm not even telling you the right number. I think we quadrupled sales when we put it in double black.
Wow.
And I think it's probably tenfold, to be honest with you. I really don't know. I haven't looked at it, but there's a lot of those that just didn't have an audience.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, what was the other one? The story that Express, how you had told
Express
me that.
Security Cleaner. Yeah. Been around since 1990, since 90 something.
And you said it was sold in a concentrate and it really didn't have much.
We called it leather cleaner concentrate. Nobody used it. I go, this is the best cleaner. It dilutes 15 to 1, but you couldn't get anybody to use it. So I said, let's rebrand it, called the Express Interior Cleaner. The rest is history.
Yeah.
It's such an ideal product to use on the inside of the car. You know, so, and then we put it in double black, and it now had an audience. So, you know, I mean, yeah, double black. I mean, it's funny. Rennie, it was.
I was gonna say, give us a little story on how that.
Well, double black, that was never in the plan. It really wasn't. You know, when Rennie became our spokesperson, we went to SEMA. We announced that he was going to be our spokesperson in, I think, like October, and then SEMA happened, right? And that was our first SEMA. I mean, I've been to SEMA many times. We never exhibited, and we had a great booth. You know, it was a great show, but we really didn't make an impact, right? We made an impact. We didn't grow sales. And I'm like, Rennie, we got to create something that the consumer wants to buy. We got to create a signature line with your name on it. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, we got to do that, because, you know, you're our spokesperson. We need to give you a tool to market. So we created Double Black, and we needed a boutique brand. We needed a marketing sphere, right? We had all these chemicals, but guys were like, well, which one do I choose? Like, well, if we could recreate a line, make it a narrow focus, and create a marketing tool. And then, you know, we thought about names. We didn't know what to call it. We were going to call it Rennie's Signature Series or something like that. And then, but Rennie, you know, he likes skiing. We grew up snow skiing. And then we looked for, you know, like a river rating or, you know, climbing rating or something like that. And I'm like, Double Black Diamond, dude, that is it. And so, you know, we Googled it, and the only thing was Johnny Walker and ski runs. That's all we could find. And we're like, this is perfect. It had so many subtle things to fit the detail industry. Number one, black paint's always the challenge, right? Double black, you know. And then we could use the diamonds as kind of a rating system. We can just set our standard. And then Rennie didn't want his name on it. And then Rennie actually brought one of his buddies in, a marketing guy, and we brought our stuff down to Rennie's shop, and the guy said, well, Rennie, if it doesn't have your name on it, what do you sell? And so, you know, Rennie's like, okay, I lost that one. So, you know, we put his name on there. But the spectacular thing about Double Black is I got to say, Rennie, Rennie's a spectacular friend, and a spectacular individual, but sometimes he sets out what I perceive to be unrealistic goals. He goes, we're going to do this number with Double Black. And I'm like, God, Rennie, you're freaking crazy. Well, we almost hit it this year. I mean, it's just amazing. And I'm like, how did that happen, right? And really, I got to give a huge thank you to the detailing industry, because they've really embraced us. I mean, they really have. And I like to think it's a two-way relationship. I mean, obviously, I love the customer to use our product, but they've really embraced our brand, and they've embraced our company. And you know, they didn't have to do that. And so I really appreciate that. And there's many people that played a role. I mean, the rag company played a huge role.
Yep.
Pan, the organizer, played a huge role. Matt Mormon played a huge role. You played a huge role. Rennie, the hugest role, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, you guys have pioneered a lot of that. For now, the other manufacturers are looking into similar ideas.
I mean, it's kind of, I mean, we had this marketing concept that now, you know, everybody wants to do, but, you know, not everyone wants to, but, you know, it's the secret sauce. How do you create that secret sauce of, you know, marketing well, and not offend, but embrace? I mean, it's subtle, you know. I mean, there are companies that spend millions and millions of dollars on social media and try and create this boutique thing, and they fail, you know. Got to hit right. The timing was right. I mean, I look at, you know, like Pan's video at the rag company when he looked at the bead maker. I mean, that was just, I still laugh every time he touched the paint. He started laughing so hard, you know. And then Matt Mormon, his authentic, goes, well, you know, when I got a call from Matt, he goes, Bob, can I sell your stuff? And I was like, well, why wouldn't you be able to sell it? He goes, well, most people don't want to sell to me. I'm like, well, why not? You know, but that was also early on in the Obsessed Garage phase too. And then Matt grew, and we grew with him. And you know, so there were so many things. And then in bead maker, I mean, let's face it, bead maker put us on the map. Bead maker still keeps us on the map. Sales of bead maker grow every year. It's one of the most talked about categories. I don't want to say product because people think I'm being egotistical about bead maker, but that product, that spray product that goes on paint, when you look at YouTube videos, dude, that's what people want to see. So, you know, bead maker's in the mix, and they're like, you know, which one lasts longer, all this stuff. I mean, let's face it, bead maker had nothing to do with longevity on paint. It's all about the experience, man. It's all about how it makes that paint look, and how it makes that paint feel, and how it smells when you're applying it. I mean, that was it. When we used it in Rennie's shop, everybody know, I think people know the story about Bead Maker, but my brother made Bead Maker and I had it for 3 years. I'm like, we don't need another detail spray. He's like, dude, it's not another detail spray. I'm like, yeah, but it is, because I didn't know better, right? When we were at Rennie's shop, we used it on the car. We looked at the car, we were like, wow, that's pretty cool. We went to lunch, we came back an hour later, and we're like, okay, so is that car shinier now? And we're like, well, it kind of looks shinier, Rennie. He goes, go, let's touch this car. We go and touch the car. He's like, holy shit, this stuff is amazing. And so, and then, now Bead Maker 4 years, now it's taken off. And really, it was the detailers that took that product to the next level.
Yeah, they took it, they ran with it, and it
wasn't us. I mean, because people would ask me about, well, I got 30, 60 days. That's how long it lasts. It creates, it's kind of a cool product. They would be cool product. This product's the shit. I mean, it's like, so, and then, Pan and Matt and the rag company. I mean, these guys, once they had it, they're like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot to be said about that. There's a lot of products on the market, and as one that's used it for a while and been part of the beginning of it and selling it, not to have support it because of those things, but to support it because it is unique. It's a unique cured polymer. It does things different than what other products do. And no, it's not maybe as long-term or as durable as others, but that's okay. That's wasn't the initial purpose for it, right? It's the cosmetic value and the other characteristics as a whole package to say that it delivers on, cost, effectiveness, all these things that, all my customers, they get their hands on it from a consumer standpoint. It's the juice, there's other juices out there, but
of course,
but it's one of those things. Yeah, they hit the mark, and that's a staple in our industry now, regardless of.
I think one of the things that's so amazing to me when I look at that whole category, and I look at the noise in the graphene now, SiO2, all this, it's like, wow, look at what's going on.
Great products.
Totally, absolutely great products. But when I when I watch a guy and he goes, okay, so I'm going to put this spray product, and I hate the term that they call it coating. I hate that because realistically, coating is
so confusing to consumers.
It's so confusing. It's like, look, as professional detailers, we identify a coating as a polymer resin that cures on the paint, that is totally durable and chemical resistant. That's what we call a coating. But now it's it's on these bottles. It's a little totally misleading, right? But what I look at is I watch like the prosumer or the enthusiast, and he spends 6 hours working on his car, right? So he'll decontaminate it. He'll one-step polish it. He'll decontaminate it again. He'll get it all ready, and then he'll use some spray product on there. And I'm like, well, why not coat the thing? Right? You spend all that time, coat it, or get somebody to coat it, and then use the detail spray to maintain it. Because these products, I mean, they're never going to be as long-lasting as a coating. It's just, well, I don't want to say never because shit happens, right? Technology change. I mean, I don't want to say that. I'm not a chemist. There's no doubt about that. But the longevity. So people are searching for that holy grail, but coatings are that holy grail. They're legit. There was a guy. Pan the organizer just had a guy, Brian Weltzer, I think his name is, Fab Auto. He did one of the coolest coating videos. He just did it where he took 3 coatings. It was an Adams coating, a Chemical Guys, and one other coating. I can't remember, but put 3 coatings on the hood, real coating. I'm not talking sprays. I'm talking actual coatings. And then he threw everything at these coatings for the kitchen sink. Degreaser, acid. He kept going. And he's like, these coatings are lasting. I go, aha, yes, they are, because they're coatings. That's what they're designed to do. I go, that, and so the consumer is confused that, I got this spray product as coating. No, you're not. It's not what we define as detailers as a coating. It's a spray product that does a good job. It's durable, but it's not a coating. And then the conclusion was he took it out and he took it out to a grassy field, and he goes, I've never done this. And he lit the hood on fire. I'm like, oh my God, this is so funny, right? I'm like, this is the greatest video ever. And he's like, look, the coating lasted. I mean, it was so cool. And, my takeaway from that is that was such a good video for the industry.
Yeah.
Because it defines why coatings have a place in our industry.
Yeah, and they're not going nowhere.
They're spectacular, man. I mean, when you coat a car and then you go to wash it and the soap just goes, kind of falls off that paint. You're like, damn, look at that,
Yeah.
right? That's a coating.
Car
That's
person or not, you're always
Yeah.
like, whoa.
I mean, you feel it. I'm like, look at that. And then you take bead maker and it pairs really well with coatings. Then you're like, whoa, look at that. I mean, that's what's fun.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. So, with where we're at right now on time and everything, what do you have as far as something that you could say, last words, Bob, for, people out there, detailers, others, just something that they're good takeaway for them that you could give them?
I could talk hours about detailing, but I just, you know what, in closing, I want our country to come together, man. I really do. United States of America is the most spectacular country in the world. And last year was a shit show. It really was. And, America is great when we're a team.
Yeah.
And America needs to be a team. We need to come together as a country, and we need to just move forward, man. You know what? We are such a spectacular country. There's so many great things going on. I think our industry is a good example of how people can come together.
Oh yeah.
To work to a common goal. And so I think that's my message, man. Don't forget that we are the greatest country in the world. And don't forget that we can beat anything when we rally together as a country, beat it. And so, we still got COVID for 2021. It's not going away. It's going to be a tough time, but it's going to solve itself. And we're going to not solve itself. I mean, we're going to have to work to fix it, but we'll get out of this thing. And, it's just an honor to be on here with you. And just, I could talk detailing all day long. I mean, I just love it. But that's it. I think just don't forget that we are the greatest country in the world. And we need to come together. And
I agree.
We'll beat everything.
I think, like what you said, you look at any, team, whether it's athletes or businesses, just that key word, as a team, as America, as a team. When you come together as a team, anything can happen. You could be, in a positive direction, make anything happen. So I agree. And I thank you for having the opportunity, because it's been a long, wild couple years, plus COVID, but I got to say, as a friend, first and foremost, of, a good friend and just mentor, things you've helped me with over the years, and everything having you on was awesome. And there's a small group of handful of people that I look up to in the industry that have helped me out, that are still my really good friends. And you're obviously one of them. And
that feeling is mutual, my friend.
Yeah.
I mean, I look up to you like, dude, you're a stud. I mean, when I think of detailing, I think of Justin Lobato. I mean, I really do. You just, you're it. And you're the walking, shining example of what a detailer should be. Humble, professional, strong goals, good family values, all that stuff, man. That's what makes it a great detailer.
One day at a time, right? One day at a time.
One day at a time. All right. Well, let's get 2020 over. Hey, man, have a good Christmas.
Thank you. And you as well. But how would people reach you, Bob, as far as if anybody wants to reach out to you in regards to questions or becoming a distributor or any of that, how would they reach out to you?
psdetailproducts.com, PS Detail Products on Instagram, PS Detail Products on Facebook.
Perfect.
That's it. That's how you reach me. Yeah.
That works. Okay. Well, Bob, thank you very much. Merry Christmas. Tell Dave I said Merry Christmas as well. And the family. And I appreciate you. And we'll keep in touch. And thanks again. And this concludes our number 9.
I have a good one, man. See
double digits.
Bye-bye. Yep.
So thank you very much. And thanks everybody for watching.
Pretty soon it'll be 100.
Merry Christmas.